What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Today we're going to be doing a new series here on the channel, and I hope that you guys will enjoy this series. This was a viewer suggested series here out of my Discord, so if you guys haven't been a part of my Discord, make sure you guys go check out the link that I have on the community page in my channel and get involved in the Discord, because we are beefing it up and starting a really nice Madden community there. You guys can find other leagues, find other Madden players, talk sports, talk YouTube, talk whatever on there. So make sure you guys get involved in that Discord. But with that being said, that's where this idea for this video came from. A viewer suggested that we kind of take a look at the best late round players in a fantasy draft at basically any position, and this is a fantastic video idea, and I think that this is going to be a fantastic series here on the channel if you guys are interested in fantasy drafts in Madden franchise mode whatsoever. And so today we're going to be taking a look at probably one of the more simple positions where there's not going to be a lot of options, but we're going to take a look at quarterback today and take a look at some of the good late round picks at quarterback. Now, the thing that you have to understand with quarterback is that it's already a very thin position. But the other thing that you have to understand with quarterback in a fantasy draft is that most of the good quarterbacks are going to go early. And once a team has their number one quarterback, they're probably not focusing too hard on a backup quarterback. And so a lot of these late round guys you can kind of expect to be there for a while. It's going to depend if you're in a user league or a CPU. It's going to depend on the tendencies of those users as well. If you're in a CPU league, the CPU teams will tend to take a backup quarterback a little bit earlier than I probably would expect users to take a backup quarterback. But there are some great options, and so of a fantasy draft. I haven't selected anybody in particular. I just let it run its course the way that it normally does, and you guys can already see what some of the options are available to us. And so I'm going to go through this by a couple of to look at who I think the top players are to watch out for here. Now, the first thing that I'm going to watch out for, obviously you're looking for player overall, because you want a guy that is a decent enough overall that you can probably develop them into a legit quarterback. And so right off the page, you're looking at veteran players like Ryan Fitzpatrick, Nick Foles, but then you're also looking at some young talent like Jalen Hurts, Sam Darnold, guys like that don't necessarily have a development trait, and so they're not going to get taken super early in a fantasy draft. And so those are solid options depending on what you're trying to do at quarterback. But what I want to do first and foremost is I want to sort by age, and this is probably the most important determining factor here in drafting a quarterback, because you're going to want to pick, if you're picking a late round quarterback, you're probably looking for somebody that you can develop into a long-term starter for your team. And so you're going to want somebody that's younger, more than likely. Now, don't get me wrong, there is the strategy where you don't take a quarterback and you just pick one up in the first draft, because everybody else will have a quarterback, and so you can just take the best out of the draft. But right here, we see what I would consider to be my top option of what's available at quarterback in terms of late round players. Jalen Hurts very often slides to the late rounds in fantasy drafts these days because he is a pretty solid overall at a 71 overall. He was an early pick, 22-year-old quarterback that, to be quite honest with you, just about anybody could take this guy and develop him into a legitimate long-term starting quarterback. Now, one of the drawbacks for Jalen Hurts is that he only has 84 throw power in here. One of the things that I like about him, though, is he is very athletic. They give him 87 speed right now, 89 acceleration, 88 agility, and so he's a good dual threat, and he is absolutely somebody that you can take and turn into a very viable starting quarterback. And so that's, number one on the list, and I think that one is pretty obvious. Now, the second one that I want to take a look at on this list, there are some players in here that are athletic and things like that. You can take a look at guys like Cole McDonald. Jacob Eason has some upside to him. But I specifically want to go by age again and start taking a look at some of the players that have been prior failed high draft picks. And so you're going to be looking at guys like Josh Rosen, Dwayne Haskins, that are a little bit young, but they still have that decent overall, that if you can survive with a 65 overall quarterback, a 23-year-old player is still something very good to build on. So Josh Rosen is a very solid example of that. Dwayne Haskins Jr. is a solid example of that. And then you get into guys that I actually like quite a bit that are even still starting quarterbacks in the NFL, in guys like Drew Locke, who is just a year older than Jalen Hurts and only a 1 overall difference there. Drew Locke is a very solid player, and I like him quite a bit, and I like him maybe even a little bit more than Jalen Hurts in the regard that he has a better arm. He has 88 throw power. So that is the kind of nice benefit to him. And then Sam Darnold is probably the one that's going to round out the top 3 for me, with also 88 throw power, also only 23 years old, also kind of sort of a failed first overall draft pick, or a first round draft pick, sorry. So those are the ones that I'm looking at immediately. But then we can sort by a couple of other attributes here. So then we can sort by speed rating. And so you guys will see guys like Jalen Hurts will still be up there at the top. But this is something that can be to your advantage if you're taking a low overall quarterback. If you have a low overall quarterback, having somebody that is mobile is extremely useful to you, because that is going to open up the game more. It's going to take some of the pressure off of that player's arm, and then, allow you to run your offense a little bit more effectively. So from that aspect, I like Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is, super fast, super speedy. And then the other thing that I like about him is that he's one of the only late round quarterbacks that you might be able to find that actually has a half decent development. So he has star. So the thing to understand with this is he's not going to get any better as a 30-year-old unless you guys are making manual edits based off of performance. Like, hey, this guy performed really well, let's bump him up to a higher overall. Unless you're doing stuff like that, he's not going to get any better. But that star development can keep him around for a little bit longer. So if you use Taysom Hill, he's not just going to immediately retire. He's not just going to immediately necessarily fall off of a cliff. He'll still probably be serviceable for a year or two because he has that star development, even though he is older. Then I like to look at a guy like Marcus Mariota. And the thing that I like about Marcus Mariota is that he actually has pretty solid accuracies. He just has really low awareness. And so Marcus Mariota, personally speaking, I think is actually a pretty good steal in the late rounds of a draft, because yes, he is still only 26 years old. Another failed kind of high overall drafted quarterback. This is a guy that I like a lot. But in order to add to that, he has really good throw power at 87 in comparison to the other guys that we're looking at. But he has really good short accuracy, which is one of the most important things for a guy that is a low overall like this, that isn't a great quarterback. Especially if you're not familiar with playing with low overall quarterbacks, Marcus Mariota is a guy that could help your team tremendously. But to add to that, he's got that 88 speed, 90 acceleration, and 88 agility. So again, he has that dynamic that allows him to have that escapability, take a little bit of pressure off of his arm, and open up your offense a little bit more. And so this is a guy that I like quite a bit as well. So, Taysom Hill, Marcus Mariota, we already talked about some of the youngsters and guys like Jalen Hurts, Sam Darnold, Drew Locke, Josh Rosen, and Haskins Jr. Those are the guys that I'm specifically going to be looking at the most. Then you can take a look. Okay, this is one thing that I like to take a look at kind of above all others is, okay, throw power. This is something you can't build on. I mean, it's not something, if you take a guy with 84 throw power, he's never going to be a strong arm quarterback. But you could pick up a guy that already has a strong arm and build off of that. And so another guy that I like here on this list is Jacob Eason. Now, we've already talked about Dwayne Haskins and Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold. They all have pretty good arms for where they're at. 89, 88 throw power. That's pretty solid. I'm not going to complain about that. But you can take a guy like a Jacob Eason who already has an elite throw power at 93 throw power. Now, I'm not going to say that that's the best in the world, but that's a really good base to build upon. Yes, he's a 63 overall. Yes, his accuracies are not that good. But again, I want to highlight the fact that he has that good short accuracy, which is really useful to have. He's not very mobile or anything like that, but this is kind of the template that you want to build off of if you're looking more for a pocket passer late in the rounds that, you haven't drafted a quarterback yet. you're looking for maybe a pocket style quarterback and just a template to build upon, Jacob Eason is probably the ideal template to build upon from that perspective. So those are the guys. Outside of that, I don't think that there are too many other that I particularly want to highlight. There are some guys here that are usable, that I like because I've had success with them. Personally speaking, I've taken guys like Trace McSorley, Cole McDonald. I've had success with them, and I've turned them into good quarterbacks. I actually like Cole McDonald quite a bit because, again, he's a speedy player, but he has a good throw power in addition to that. He's just very inaccurate. But, you know, I think some of the best players here are some of the ones that essentially have been failed first overall, or not first overall, first round draft picks. And, you know, you're going to be looking at guys like Sam Darnold here in the later rounds, Drew Locke, Marcus Mariota, and things like that. Guys that you can build upon that have specific skill sets that are going to allow you to open up your offense, even though you have a low overall quarterback. You're looking for a guy here that has potential, that has, you know, not necessarily a development trait, but has potential to get better, potential to carry your offense, or potential to open up your offense in one way or another. And so those are the guys that I like to take a look at late in the draft. Like I said, hopefully you guys find this series interesting. I love doing fantasy drafts personally. I don't know a lot of people that actually do like to do fantasy drafts, but this is a great series, in my opinion, for those out there that do like to do fantasy drafts and are interested in fantasy drafts, because there are a lot of late round players at many of these positions that are viable options to not only draft to your team, but start and develop them into long-term starters. Like I said, we're in round 15 here, and you can get any handful of a number of quarterbacks that you could turn into a legitimate long-term starter for your team, a franchise quarterback. If I can wait till round 15 to get a guy that I can turn into a franchise quarterback, then I'm going to wait, because personally speaking, I don't need the best quarterback in the world to run my offense efficiently. So that's one thing that I find interesting. With that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you find this information useful. Maybe you guys have a list yourselves. I know that the person that requested this video, and I'm blanking on their name, I should pull up the message, but they wanted to compare their list against mine. So let me know in the comment section what your list looks like compared to mine. Did I miss any players that you guys like a lot? Did I hit on the players that you guys like to target? And let me know if you guys want to see this series continue. So with that being said, leave a like on the video. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell notification. And like I said, hit that, leave your comments in the notification button, in the notification. What am I saying? Leave your comments in the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next video. Sorry, brain lapse. See you guys.